Hello, everybody. It's Brian here with Nick and Brian from the sideline. In the coming weeks, we're going to be veering off the podcast for a little bit. We'll get back into it because we do enjoy it. But we're starting up a new video series called The Oven, where only the hottest of takes survive. So in the coming weeks, we'll be talking baseball because it's starting back up again, basketball because it's winding down, football because the NFL draft is right around the corner, NASCAR just started up again, WWE is in full swing as it always is, and maybe even some Bachelor for some of our lady viewers. This week, however, I'll be talking some soccer. Not the Premier League, though. I'm talking MLS because it is the opening weekend once again. I'll get started with the new teams. Minnesota United FC got off to a slow start and lost 5-1 in Portland. I get it, though, an expansion team, and Portland's one of the perennial powerhouses. Not worried at all. Not going to make the playoffs this year for Atlanta, or for Minnesota, but they're an expansion team. What do you expect? Atlanta is the other expansion team, as I got ahead of myself there. They're currently leading the Red Bulls 1-0 in Atlanta. 55,000 people came out. That's a great thing for the MLS. Hopefully they can continue to sell that many tickets. That would be amazing all year round. The other new addition was not a team, however. It was a soccer-specific stadium for Orlando City, and it looked great. They have a new purple wall, a nod to Dortmund, German greats, and their yellow wall, and it looked great, and it worked for them because, well, they're off to a 1-0 start after beating New York City FC 1-0 themselves. Now that I got all the new things out of the way for you guys, I'll jump into my predictions. I think in the Western Conference, which I do believe is a little bit more stacked, I believe that Portland will come out. As I alluded to earlier, they are perennial powerhouses, and they are only getting better. I believe that Seattle will get out. I do not feel like there will be any championship hangover, and Clint Dempsey's back, and he already scored. They did lose, but I really think that team's good, and no reason they shouldn't make it back again this year. You got Colorado, my favorite, Timmy Slim, Jim Howard's out there, so of course I was going to pick them to make the playoffs. I like what FC Dallas is doing. I think they're already the early MLS Cup favorites. I think they'll make it out of the West along with a lot of other MLS pundits. And I really like the way Kellyn Acosta has that team playing. He scored a goal already this season, and I think he'll end up in the MLS MVP voting. I think he'll be a top 3, and, if everything goes right, he could win it. I could easily see that guy being the MVP this year. And the fifth and final team is LA. I just can't not put them in. Ashley Cole's the best left back in the league. I know he's older, but he's still the best left back in this league. They just added Alessandrini. I know they lost Robbie Keane, but they still have Giovanni Dos Santos. That team is stacked from top to bottom. They may not be the best team in the league. I really like FC Dallas, Portland, and Seattle. But I think they'll make it in nonetheless, and it'll be another exciting season for those fans. Moving on to the Eastern Conference, which I do not believe is as good, but I do believe that the talent is continuously growing in this league, and you'll see a lot of teams like Atlanta, like I said, currently up 1-0 on the Red Bulls. That's their first game ever. I know it's in Atlanta. I know their adrenaline's pumping, and that stadium crowd must be crazy. But for an expansion team to beat the continuous champs of the Eastern Conference, I know they never make it out, but they win that Supporters Shield, it feels like, every year. That's a pretty good start to your season. I don't think Atlanta will make the playoffs, however. They're going to be right there, either 7, 8. I could see them right there along with Philly and Montreal. I have those two just sitting outside as well. I like out of the East. I love Toronto. Giovinco is the best player in the MLS. He may not have won MVP last year. He may not win it this year, but don't take that away from his greatness. The best player in the MLS. And they have Josie up top. That attack's great. They still have Michael Bradley. I like that team to continue exactly what they did last season and make it to the playoffs again. The Red Bulls, you can't pick against them at this point. Bradley Wright Phillips is the best scorer in the league that we have right now, and that team is just constantly making the playoffs. I also love Orlando this year. I think Kyle Larin is coming into his own. I think he will become that second best striker in the league right behind Bradley Wright Phillips. He is just a prolific goal scorer, and he scored again today. I think Kaká is still a great player in this league, and I think they're only adding more and more talent to that roster. Of course, I'm a homer. I'm going to pick New York City FC to make it. I have to. I can't not pick them. And my last and final team will be Columbus. I think Columbus will be either 1 or 2 coming out. I think they had a down year last year, just like Portland. But I think they'll be right back in it again this year, and I think they'll be fighting to make the MLS Cup. That being said, I like FC Dallas to make the MLS Cup. I'm going to go ahead and say Toronto's going to make it again. You can't pick against Giovinco. It's just watching him play against inferior talent, that's the only way to say it, is mesmerizing. And I think FC Dallas will win the MLS Cup this year. I think that team is growing. I think that team has been growing, and I think they finally have put it all together, and I think you'll see some fireworks this year. I think that team may not win the Supporters' Shield, but I think when it comes to playoff time, they'll win the home-and-home series, and they'll get to that MLS Cup final. Well, that's all I got for you this week. Quick 5-minute, 6-minute segments. That's all we're going to be doing. I hope you enjoy.